Washington will be burning the midnight oil over Turkey. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is back after a long meeting with the Turkish president. And does Washington side with Erdogan and keep NATO intact, or does it go with the Syrian Kurds, America's most reliable ally in the part of the world? WION's Daniele Pagani reports from Ankara.
Heads of state are generally circumspect when speaking in public, but not Turkey's Erdogan.
It is very clear that those who say we will respond aggressively if you hit us have never experienced an Ottoman slap.
Not even his foreign minister.
It's natural that the confidence in the United States is lost among the public and amongst us, the administrators. This confidence needs to be restored. We don't want any promises and pledges anymore. We want concrete steps. We will assess these during Tillerson's visit because our relations are at a very critical juncture. We will either mend our ties or they will break apart.
Both comments were made ahead of US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's visit to Ankara. It was probably his toughest stopover on a 5-country swing through West Asia. Tillerson spent 3 hours with Erdogan and refused any comment. All Erdogan would say is that Turkey's expectation had been communicated. Their current tension stemmed from Turkey's move into northern Syria, an area held by Kurds of the YPG allied to the US. Turkey says the YPG is a terrorist group linked to the Kurdistan Workers' Party. It's a dilemma for Washington. The US has given arms and training to the YPG since 2014. The YPG is the backbone of the Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF. They spearheaded the anti-ISIS offensive in North Syria. SDF captured the Caliphate's capital, Raqqa. The US has proposed a $550 million aid package for the SDF. US Defense Secretary James Mattis is concerned that the Turkish campaign is diverting the Kurds from completing the war against the Islamic State.
You know, you've got the distraction of what's going on up in Afrin right now, which has drawn off some of the Syrian Democratic Forces, which have got about 50%. That's probably not a firm percentage, could be less, could be more, that are Kurds.
The Turks remain adamant.
We ask them to end all kinds of support they are giving to PKK's Syria branch, PID YPG, terrorist organization, and we demand this structure to be removed from SDF.
Add to that Turkey's demand that the US extradite cleric Fethullah Gulen, who they accuse of masterminding the 2016 coup against Erdogan. Washington says there's no evidence Gulen was involved in any plot of this kind.
The United States Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is on a very difficult mission, perhaps a sort of mission impossible. He needs to find a way out of a catch-22 situation. On the one hand, if he decides to abandon the Syrian Kurdish fighters, it means that Washington will be left with virtually no reliable ally on the ground in Syria and will be very much isolated. But on the other hand, certainly Washington cannot abandon Turkey, cannot break away from a long-standing ally and the second largest NATO member. The very existence of NATO would be at stake if that happens, and also Ankara could well decide to strengthen its military alliance with Russia, and Moscow would be very happy to shift the balances in West Asia. Rex Tillerson is currently on a damage control visit, perhaps the most difficult he faces during his 1 year in office. Daniele Pagani from Amman, Jordan, for WION.
And I'm joined by my colleague Daniele Pagani from Amman. Daniele, thank you for joining me on this show. Daniele, my question to you is that does the visit of Rex Tillerson help the West Asian, I would say, political paralysis? Will it help stabilize the situation for some time?
Good evening to you, Kartikeya. Well, unfortunately, the answer to this question is no, because at the end of the round of meetings that Rex Tillerson held with the President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Cavusoglu, nothing actually happened. The United States, through the voice of Rex Tillerson, said they do recognize the necessity of Turkey to defend their borders. They reinstated full support to Turkey, but there is no clear way forward. There is no project. There is no strategy to end the stalemate between the two countries. Remember that the relations between the two countries are at their worst. The US, and Tillerson made it very clear, do see a role for the Kurdish fighter in the future. They will send them money, they will send them weapons, and Turkey does not absolutely intend to stop the military campaign against the very same Syrian Kurds. Also, Fethullah Gulen will not be extradited, and the problems of US employees still languishing in jail in Turkey because they were accused of being part of the coup is not solved. So all the problems are still on the table, despite Rex Tillerson trying to solve them.
Apart from that, the moot question is that you have so many players in Syria, one supported by the Russians, another supported by the Americans, one opposed by Turkey. Is it really possible to have a united Syria in future? Because ultimately the fact that parts of Syria have disintegrated like Iraq, you have this political chaos on the margins of the state.
Unfortunately, I have to answer no even to this question, at least not as of now. See, the Syrian war is entering to a kind of a third phase. So now the intra-Syrian conflict, so the conflict between the rebels and the government, is slowly nearing an end, even if it is a bloody end. And now there is another phase of the conflict where the major power, remember that we have Iran involved, we have the Lebanese Hezbollah involved, we have the Turkish army, we have the Syrian army, we have American troops, we have Kurdish fighters. All these players now are getting one in front of the other, and they are trying to understand what will be the next move. No one wants to go away, no one wants to let go of the others, and no one wants to renounce to their presence in Syria. And this is a very, very dangerous alchemy, given the fact that all of them are almost rival and do have different objectives.